Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fourth installment of First Impressions. As many of you already know, this series is bringing you a first look at the 9 new leaders that will be brought to us by the new expansion coming out in the middle of February called Gathering Storm. This series has been a lot of fun to make so far. It makes a lot of opportunity for me to bring people from my Twitch channel over to YouTube channel to take a look at my impressions. I get asked these questions all the time. What do you think of these guys? What do you think of those guys? And probably nobody's asked me more about a particular leader than my thoughts on the Incans. And that's what we're taking a look at today. Very, very interesting civilization. Very controversial. A lot of people look at them and are like, oh my god, they're so amazing. Terrace farms, oh my god, this and that. These, the mountains and the stuff and the things. But I'll be honest with you, I do not see them as a very strong civilization at all. A lot of their abilities and synergies actually work against the general mechanics of the game and the way that you actually eventually go for victory conditions. So let's take a look at their abilities, shall we? And then we'll break it down. So, Kapaknyan of the Pachacuti Incan Empire. Domestic trade routes gain additional food for every mountain tile in the original city, and they gain the Kapaknyan improvement from foreign trade civics when the foreign trade civic is discovered. Lots of food. That's what you can say there. They get lots and lots and lots and lots of food. The Mita, or something along those lines. Citizens may work mountain tiles. The mountain tiles provide +2 production and +1 food to mountain tiles with an adjacent terrace farm. So this is a little bit of a bonus because they are going to have a mountain bias, and so it's a lot of lost tiles. So they're saying, hey, we're going to give you a little bit of a bone here. We're going to give you a couple production of those tiles. If you get a couple of terrace farms around them, we'll make them a decent tile. If you're able to do that. So you could turn mountain tiles into solid tiles. And at the end of the day, these guys are going to grow super, super tall. So you're going to want to have tiles that these guys can work because they're going to be working the mountains. So at least the mountains will have some value to them. But at this point, we've gotten through their unique abilities. And what do they have? They can grow tall and they can work mountains. Okay. The warak'aq is a unique medieval era unit. It replaces the skirmisher. For those of you not aware, the skirmisher is a new scout unit that sits between the scout that you start the game with and the ranger that comes way, way, way in the future. The skirmisher is certainly a well-needed unit to fill a gap, absolutely. And this guy is essentially a replacement of it. It's stronger at ranged combat than the skirmisher and has +1 additional attack return. Unfortunately, it's still a scout. And this unit, honestly, I hate to be too negative. I do. I don't want to be like super, super down or negative, but this thing is not going to really help you much in anything. I mean, it makes your scouts a little bit stronger in the mid game. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot of value to that, other than maybe they stay alive a little bit easier if they're off exploring in that mid game. Makes them a little bit stronger that way, but I mean that the value of that is pretty minimal, if we're being honest. It's certainly not going to help you in any sort of a domination game. And then we've got the Kapaknyan improvement. Unlocks the builder ability to construct a Kapaknyan unique to the Pachacuti. Acts as a movement portal on a mountain range, allowing units to move into it and exit from another portal at the cost of 2 movement, and can only be built on an adjacent mountain tile, cannot be pillaged or removed. So this is basically in the new expansion, there's gonna be tunnels, essentially, the ability to build tunnels, and this is a special ability to build those tunnels much, much, much earlier than the rest of the game. So you're gonna have the ability to move in and around mountains a lot sooner and a lot easier than other civilizations. There you go. It's going to be fun to play with them, maybe, because that's going to be kind of cool to be able to pass through long mountain ranges in one single turn. There you go. And then finally, the terrace farm. Everybody saw it coming, and here it is. Unlocks the builder ability to construct a terrace farm unique to the Incans. +1 food, of course, and then provides housing, a full housing for every one full housing for every 2 terrace farms. So you get just like a regular farm. And then +1 food for each adjacent mountain tile. So these guys, again, just the ability to grow super tall. There's going to be tons of food involved with these. And then, of course, gaining +2 production for each adjacent aqueduct district. So if you feel like wasting production, well, it won't be a waste for these guys, I guess, because it's going to increase your production, and you're going to be production starved, or at least a little bit production famished, if you will. So +2 production for the adjacent aqueducts. So if you go ahead and build those aqueducts, take the time to build them, it's going to give you some feedback production on your adjacent tiles. So I mean, you know, there's going to be, it gives you a little bit of fun to play with as far as building your aqueducts and putting stuff around them, and it's a cute little civ in that regard. Receiving an additional production if adjacent to fresh water and not an aqueduct. So if you put the terrace farms along water, so if you happen to have some mountain or some hills or so along rivers or by lakes, you can put the terrace farms there and get 1 additional production and not have to worry about the building the aqueduct. And of course, additional food as you advance through the civics trees, because what are these guys going to need more of as you get through the civics tree? Even more food. I mean, these guys are going to be like 15 tall cities, and then they're just going to be like, hey, here's more food. So yeah, that's it. And of course, they can only be placed on hills of the desert, plains, or grasslands variety. So let's take an overall view of these guys from just a general playability on any difficulty level, and just before we get too critical about how they're going to play on Deity or how they play overall and victory conditions and stuff like that, just to play with these guys and have some fun and play casually in the game, there's something there. I'm not going to lie. The terrace farms are going to be cool looking, and you can build some adjacencies and try to make your mountain tiles really good if you can get them all in the right spots. It can be really very interesting. But of course, there's the downfall. That is, if you're putting terrace farms everywhere to make those mountain tiles good, then you're not building mines on those hills. And of course, not building mines on hills means you're going to be depriving your civilization of the much needed production required to do the things you need to do in order to win a game. So fun, interesting. If you're not under pressure to win the game, interesting ideas for sure. The Kapak Nyan, the extra food from trade, like tons of extra food from trade routes, and then of course the Kapak Nyan ability to build the tunnels, essentially, if you will, the early tunnels through mountains. They displayed this in their live playthrough the week these guys got released, and it was pretty interesting the way you can like really jet from one end of a mountain range to the other and stuff. It wasn't uncool, if you will. It was kind of neat to watch. So I think that I can see why people will want to use these guys in order to have fun. There's a lot of people from the Civilization 5 community who love growing tall cities, who are going to love playing with these guys. But honestly, at the end of the day, if you look at the actual core mechanics of the game, there's very little requirement to build cities beyond 10 population. If you build your cities to population of 10, you are getting very little for going to population 11, 12, 13, and beyond. Other than if you've got lots of really good tiles, you can make them a little bit more productive. But here's the problem. When you grow super tall, and in particular when you grow super tall early, it's hard to have enough luxuries to keep up with the demand for all those people in all of your cities. You have to look at the luxuries and the amenities they provide very carefully, particularly when you're working on higher difficulty levels, because if your people are happy or even ecstatic, they get 5 or 10% bonuses to all of their yields. But if they're unhappy, then they are getting negative impacts. So when you grow super tall cities before you've got the luxuries and therefore amenities to provide to them, and then the cities continue to grow taller because you've got all these Kapak Neon trade routes providing all this food, and then you've got all these terrace farms providing all this extra food and even more and more food as the culture tree and tech trees go on, it's just food and food and food, and cities growing super, super, super tall. And there might be people out there who enjoy that and they want to build super tall cities and they don't care about anything else. Have fun with it. But when it comes to the mechanics of the game, you're going to have trouble keeping the amenities required for these civilizations to be able to thrive and be happy and do the things you need to do production-wise to win a game. So I think that's extremely important to keep in mind. And ultimately, when you go down through these things, when they got finished talking about it, the first time I watched this video, I'm like, but where's the stuff to help them win the game? They can grow tall really fast. Okay, how's that going to help you win a game? They can build a special farm on a hill. Well, okay, that's great, but where's the production you need to win a game? Their military unit, not very good, arguably bad. There's just the ability to work reasonably poor tile on a mountain. Like early on, sure, 2 mountain. If you can get a terrace farm beside it, you can have a 1-2 mountain tile, or maybe even a couple, like a 2-2 mountain tile. But that's the best it's going to be. And as the game moves on and you need more and more and more production, the mines that would normally be under those terrace farms and getting more and more production as the game moves on are just going to stay the same. And the mountains are just going to stay the same. And I really ultimately think that that's just more negatives for this civilization overall. So, let's break it down, shall we? Trying not to be too negative here, guys. I apologize. In a word, tall. If you like to grow tall cities, these guys are going to grow tall. That's the most positive thing I can say about them. In a number, steady yourself, a 3. And I think that's being pretty generous, because ultimately when you break it down, science 2 out of 5, culture they're a 1, military they're a 1, and religion I'm giving them a 2. So when it comes to actually winning this game, you need to win a science game, you need raw science. The one thing that you can say about these guys is they do have a mountain bias. You're going to be in and around the mountains, so you should be able to build pretty good campuses, and of course pretty good holy sites as well. So that's why they've gotten a 2 in science and religion, because they're going to be able to build the pretty high adjacencies to give them that raw science. They will struggle. The reason why having those really good adjacencies isn't making them a 3 out of 5 is because they're going to struggle for amenities. They're going to struggle for production, which is extremely important, and particularly in a science game. So not having those other things required for those victories, I just feel like, particularly in a science game, they are a 2 out of 5 at best, with those good adjacencies. Religion, you could make the argument that if you can make lots of really good religious districts in those mountains, then maybe they're a 3, because that's a lot of adjacencies. But that's the best you could do there. Culture, and like they've got culturally, I'm sorry, but they don't have a special anything that gives them any raw culture whatsoever. They don't have anything that's going to help them with a whole bunch of science other than decent science districts. I just can't see any reason why you would give them any extra ability when it comes to winning a culture game. And the same with military. They don't have any military abilities. Their special military unit has no ability to actually go and physically take over in any way, shape, or form any other civilization, particularly at a deity difficulty level. So unfortunately, as interesting as these guys are, and as fun as I think some people might have playing them, I don't see any way in which these guys are anything short of really quite poor. And that's just the way it is. Sometimes you got to just give the bad news. No salt required. Just lay it out there. That's the answer to the question of what's your first impression, or what's my first impression of the Incans. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think I'm wrong? Do you guys think they're going to be amazing? Tell me. Don't just tell me you think they're going to be amazing. Tell me why you think they're amazing and why I'm wrong. Let me know in the comment section what you think of this video, what you think of all the videos. Don't forget to like it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.